Good morning and welcome to Supportive Information Sessions. My name is Olivia Vandervloot. I am a counselor here at Addiction Services of Thames Valley, and today I will be talking to you about post-acute withdrawal. First off, I'd like to inform you of how to connect with us during the time of COVID-19. So you can call for services in Elgin County, Oxford County, Middlesex County, and London, Monday to Friday from 10 a.m. till 3 p.m. Our number is 519-673-3242. For information and intake support, select extension 222. For current clients and intake support, please select extension 284. For family members and intake support, you can select extension 221. And for withdrawal support, please select extension 248. If you'd like to connect with our RAM clinics, please select extension 281. For additional supports for mental health and/or addictions information, support and crisis services, call 1-866-933-2023, and they have a web chat at reachout247.ca if you need to talk to someone. If you are feeling stressed, overwhelmed, or lonely, you can call the support line at 519-601-8055. Some tips for COVID-19 to protect your health. So COVID-19 is a new illness that can affect your lungs and airways. It's caused by a virus called coronavirus. Practicing good hygiene is the best way to protect against the novel coronavirus and other illnesses in this cold and flu season. The first tip is wash your hands. Wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds, or use hand sanitizer if your hands are not covered in dirt. Number 2, minimize close contact with other people. Maintain physical distancing. Sit or stand at least 2 meters or 6 feet apart from other people. Stay at home if you are sick. Symptoms of COVID-19 include fever, cough, and difficulty breathing. If you are staying with others, keep a 2 meter or 6 foot distance. And the fourth is self-assessment. If you think you might have symptoms, there's a free self-assessment offered by Public Health Canada at the link listed below. If you cannot access self-assessment online, you can call the Middlesex London Health Unit at 519-663-5317 and press 1 for COVID hotline. This is monitored Monday to Friday from 8:30 till 4:30. And all counseling services at Addiction Services of Thames Valley are currently offered via phone. We're going to start off with a grounding exercise. The purpose of grounding exercises is to help calm the mind and relax the body. It helps focus the mind to relax, to be open to improve inner awareness, and support making positive mental or physical changes. So I've selected one that will be familiar to a lot of individuals who attend SIS in person or other groups at Addiction Services of Thames Valley, and this is called Leaves Down a Stream. So find a place in your home that is free of distractions. You can sit on a chair with both of your feet on the floor and put your hands on your thighs. Or you could sit on the floor with your legs crossed under you and put your hands on your lap. How you sit is important as just sitting. We will start with 5 minutes at a time. Feel free to place a watch or clock nearby so that you can time yourself for 5 minutes. Close your eyes. If thoughts start pouring into your mind, that is okay. It is the job of your mind to have thoughts. One at a time, let each thought float by, like a leaf floating down a stream. Visualize the leaf floating down the stream. Can you see the leaf? What color is it? How big is it? You're very likely to have critical thoughts and unpleasant feelings at first. This is stupid. Just let that thought float like a leaf down the stream. I've got a load of things to do. Why am I just sitting here? The leaf is floating down the stream. This is the longest 5 minutes of my life. The leaf is floating down the stream. Each thought gets its own leaf. Each feeling gets its own leaf. There are enough leaves for all your thoughts and feelings. One at a time, let each thought and feeling float on its own leaf. There is a simple joy in having the thought float down the stream. Each thought moves freely. There are no obstacles to block the movement of the leaf. The river is running smoothly. Next thought, next leaf, next feeling, next leaf, leaf floating down the stream. And when you are ready, you can bring yourself back to the presentation. Thank you for participating in the grounding exercise with me. As I said, today we'll be talking about post-acute withdrawal, also referred to as PAW. So the goal is to increase your knowledge of post-acute withdrawal. Often people have never heard of post-acute withdrawal, so they don't recognize the symptoms which can lead to relapse. Knowledge is power. Once you know your post-acute withdrawal symptoms, you can identify them when they occur and develop ways to cope and avoid relapse. You may recognize that past unsuccessful attempts at recovery were due to being unaware of post-acute withdrawal symptoms. Recovery is about accepting past unsuccessful attempts. This information will help you to reignite your motivation as to build a strong recovery. Becoming abstinent is the first part of recovery. Learning to identify and manage post-acute withdrawal is the foundation to building a fulfilling life without substance use. So post-acute withdrawal means symptoms that occur after acute withdrawal. So it's important to note that when we think of a syndrome or a group of symptoms, not everyone gets all the same symptoms or to the same degree. So for example, when people get the flu, there are common symptoms, but we might not experience all the symptoms to the same degree. Everyone is unique. The list of symptoms is general. You might not get all of them, but if you get a symptom after this presentation, you'll be able to name it and learn to deal with it. So post-acute withdrawal symptoms can often be the same as symptoms from other conditions. For example, if a person is depressed, loses a job, or gets divorced. So it can be complicated to figure out what the cause of these symptoms are. Regardless, the coping strategies that assist with post-acute withdrawal will help in other areas of life stress. So, there are two different types of withdrawal. First, let's review acute withdrawal. So it occurs immediately after you've stopped using your substance of choice. It is both physical and psychological. So acute withdrawal varies according to the substance used, the length of time used, the health of the person, and other individual factors. It normally lasts 7 to 14 days, but psychological symptoms can continue longer. Acute withdrawal symptoms are the opposite to how the substance affected the person using it. So for example, withdrawal from alcohol, which is a central nervous system depressant that relaxes, slows a person down, is evidenced by the central nervous system speeding up. So you might experience increased heart rate, palpitations, sweating, nausea, and shakiness. Whereas withdrawal from crack, which is a stimulant that makes a person energized, euphoric, and confident, leads to exhaustion, depression, and fatigue. Now, if we look at post-acute withdrawal, we see that it's longer term, less intense overall. It might cycle, often misunderstood and misdiagnosed, and people don't feel better even though they're not using. So stress is a huge factor, and inability to manage stress can lead people to experience post-acute withdrawal more intensely. It can be misunderstood by the person and significant others. We might have thoughts like, am I going crazy? What's going on? Shouldn't I feel better? But the point of this is not to scare you, but to help you become more aware, because when we're more aware of post-acute withdrawal, it makes it much easier to cope with and to help pass through. So post-acute withdrawal is a biopsychosocial syndrome, and its severity depends on two main factors. So the first is the damage to the central nervous system. So this is the severity of brain dysfunction caused by addiction or substance abuse. The second is the amount of psychological distress experienced in recovery. So psychosocial stress of coping with life without using alcohol or other drugs. So the brain is the command center for the central nervous system. Brain chemistry changes as a result of alcohol and drug use. The extent of the damage to the nervous system depends on many things. So the length of use, type of use, type of substance, how it was used, and your health status. So don't despair about past use. Research is discovering how adaptable our brain is. So this is called neuroplasticity, which is the brain's capacity to form new connections and pathways to enhance functioning that occurs when new alternative coping skills and skills are practiced. So stress is a huge relapse risk. So developing alternative coping and supports is essential. It's human nature to want what makes us feel good. The brain craves this and wants the quickest way to meet this need. So when people stop using their drug of choice, there's a lot of stress. Think of all the stress most people would experience if suddenly there was no more sugar, caffeine, or nicotine. These are also drugs that affect the brain and can pose relapse risks. We also have an SIS on brain and nutrition, which provides good information to assist with the management of post-acute withdrawal. So some features of post-acute withdrawal. It does occur after acute withdrawal. It might be most intense during the first 3 to 6 months of early recovery. So this may be because although people have stopped using their substance of choice, they haven't yet securely developed alternative behaviors. And it also takes time for the brain chemistry to find its new balance. It takes 30 days to break a habit and time to build new ones. So psychological theory explains that it takes 45 repetitions of a new behavior for it to become more habitual or normal. So if you remember, before we had area codes, before we had to add 519 or 226 or 705, whatever, to the beginning of our phone numbers, when somebody would ask us our phone number, we would just start off with like 293, da 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 da. But when they added that 519 before, it took us about 45 times of reciting our phone number with this new 519 area code for it to become habitual. And now when somebody asks us our phone number, we're 519, super easy. So proper treatment is unique for each person. It's more than just stopping the substance of choice, and it involves discovering how to change one's lifestyle to support the new substance-free goal. The time intervals of 30, 60 days were originally developed by Alcoholics Anonymous. Chips people received at this time to honor progress and to provide positive reinforcement during times of high risk. These intervals are opportunities to pre-plan. So remember that everyone is unique. These timeframes may challenge some, but we can be prepared. So now I'd like to talk about some common symptoms of post-acute withdrawal. The first one is the inability to think clearly. So you become very distracted, lose your train of thought quite easily. You may find these things happening to you right now during this presentation. It's okay. You can watch it again as many times as you want for more information. One thing that is very difficult is the impairment of abstract reasoning. So abstract refers to something that isn't concrete. So the table that I have my computer on right now is something that is concrete, but abstract refers to something more of thought. So an abstract idea would be thinking about getting something from the basement, but when you get there, you forget what you went down for. You might be seen as stubborn or inflexible due to rigid and repetitive thinking. In the brain with addiction, the pleasure center, where dopamine and endorphins are produced, this gets more connected to the nearby area that is involved with obsessive rigid thinking. The second symptom is memory problems. We have very short-term memory problems are very common. Hit and miss long-term memory. So stress, increased forgetfulness, difficulty to learn new skills and information, and difficulty recalling information that is still there. So one important thing to consider with these memory problems is what we call state-induced learning. And so state-induced learning essentially refers to it's easier to remember something in the state in which you learned it in. So if you remember, back in school, when you went to school, when you would learn something in the classroom, and then all of a sudden you have to write the exam in the gym, and you're sitting there and you're going, oh my gosh, I can remember what they were writing on the board, but I just can't see what they're writing there. That's state-induced learning. Why this is important to consider in recovery is because it's the same thing. The same thing happens to us when we learn something when we were under the influence of a substance, and now we're trying to recall it when we're not under the influence of a substance. It makes it more difficult to make those connections in our brain. So the information is still there. You just have to work a little bit harder to get it. So some really important things to remember is, it might be helpful to get a day timer, set a reminder in your phone, write Post-it notes around the house of things you need to remember to do, even positive affirmations, just to remind yourself of the value that you have. The third symptom I'd like to speak about is emotional overreactions or numbness. So the tendency to overreact might feel more anxious or excited, emotional shutdown or feelings of numbness, and swaying from one mood to another. So it's normal for people to have a range of highs and lows with emotions. This range is shortened with substance use, and when we stop using, the range can wildly fluctuate. So if you picture it like a timeline or a scale, when we're using substances, our scale is about this short. But when we stop using substances, it lengthens back out. So it becomes very easy to fluctuate between one side to the other, because before it was only from here to here. So a fluctuation from one side to the other, we didn't feel much of a difference. But now when it's this wide, this end and this end are two very different extremes. People often start using substances in the formative teen years, where people are learning to identify and manage emotions. So when they stop using a problem substance, it can be quite overwhelming because we don't know how to feel an emotion, name it, or deal with it. The next symptom is sleep disturbances. So needing to develop our own sleep readiness routine, like a janitor turning out the lights in a warehouse to shut down for the night, we also need a routine. So the brain needs help in developing new routines, as substances were either a promotion or disturbing sleep. So our brain chemistry has changed. So now we need to readjust to this new brain chemistry and how that will affect our sleeping routine. So developing a quiet sleeping routine, journaling, reading before bed, having no screens, having a dark room, or at least dimming the lights while you're getting ready for bed, helps to increase melatonin levels. Relaxation exercises, a warm bath or a warm milk, helps to promote sleep. Retrain to go to bed at the same time and get up at the same time in the morning is essential. And if you need to nap, 20 to 30 minutes only. So physical coordination problems, dizziness, trouble with balance, poor hand-eye coordination, and slow reflexes are very common. So it may be post-acute withdrawal caused changes in brain chemistry, neurotransmitters. We also know that the occurrence of an acquired brain injury increases with substance use. So if you think you might have had a head injury, it's important to get that checked out. The reason why we bring this up is because we know that the risk of ABI increases with substance use because of the actual substances being used and their effect on the brain, as well as the increase in risk-taking behaviors, which can result in head injury. You know, we've had clients who are baseball players, golfers, those types of athletes who find early in recovery that their game has been thrown off. So no, you have not lost your ability to throw a ball. It's just getting that new balance and hand-eye coordination back. But communicating to support people in your life about post-acute withdrawal is very necessary during this time to help them understand what you're going through. The last symptom is stress sensitivity. So it can be very difficult to manage stress, can cause confusion or aggravation, trouble separating what a low stress situation and a high stress situation are, overreacting or having no reaction to minor stress, and having a delayed reaction. So this is a huge area to manage early in recovery. You may be feeling really stressed just sitting, watching this session, but learning how to manage stress is very important. So delayed reaction, what we mean when we talk about that is, you know, if somebody says something to you and it just nothing happens, you don't have a reaction to it at all, but then half an hour later when it comes back, you're like, oh my gosh, I am actually so upset by that. So that delayed reaction of not being able to react to a situation in the moment, but having that reaction come on later on in the day. So often substance use has been the way to manage stress since a young age. So we have to take some time, patience, and investment in putting new plans into actions. So for example, getting involved with addiction services, journaling, starting some exercise, even just simply walking around your block right now, while gyms are closed, parks are closed, those types of things, the small things that you can do right now. So some patterns of post-acute withdrawal. You'll notice there's a few handouts attached to this presentation. So one of those articles talks a lot about the patterns of post-acute withdrawal. So these are some terms that they use. So regenerative, meaning the symptoms get better over time. Degenerative, which means the symptoms are getting worse. Stable, they're staying the same. Or intermittent, they kind of come and go in waves. So the most common pattern of post-acute withdrawal is regenerative, and over time it becomes intermittent. So these patterns describe people who have not had any treatment for post-acute withdrawal and don't know how to manage or prevent symptoms. As I said, that most common pattern of PA is regenerative and over time becoming intermittent. It gradually becomes better until the symptoms disappear, and then it comes and goes. The goal is then to reduce how often they occur, how long the episodes last, and how bad the symptoms are. Learning to identify stress triggers in your life that lead to post-acute withdrawal symptoms and have a plan to develop coping is important in order to avoid relapse. So we've talked about what all the symptoms are. Now you're probably wondering, what the heck do I do about them then? So let's talk about how to manage some post-acute withdrawal symptoms. The first thing is stabilization. So this is unloading it, sharing it, talking about it. Whether that's with your counselor, whether that's in a support group, AA, NA, they all have online support right now as well as hotlines. Journaling it out, talking to family and friends. The other one that can be really helpful is reality testing. So this is asking yourself, is this working? Is this reasonable? Asking trusted people about thoughts or feelings. Problem solving, develop a plan. Identify strengths, challenges, how to get around roadblocks. So doing this in advance of challenges that come up, you know, thinking about times that you might have attempted recovery before and experienced stress, What were the challenges then, and how can we work around them now? Goal setting. So it's important to set SMART goals, so specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. And backtracking. So think back to the negative consequences of using when temptations arise. This is also something that we often refer to at Addiction Services of Thames Valley as playing the tape all the way through. So when we play the tape all the way through, we not only think about, why we want to use that substance, but thinking past that into what will the use of this substance result in my life. So rather than thinking, oh yeah, if I use, I'm going to feel really good, it's going to be really great, then we keep going. I'm going to feel really great for a while, but then I'm not going to feel good. I'm going to go into withdrawal. My support people might be upset with me. I might regret it. I could get put into a dangerous situation. So thinking about those consequences can be really important to help stabilize ourselves and to reduce that craving. The next is education and retraining. So you're doing it right now by being a part of this presentation. Time management is important, not only getting to places on time, but making time for recovery activities and scheduling activities in your life, even if it's just scheduling time to have a warm bath or go for a walk, some type of self-care activity. Oftentimes, if we don't schedule it in, we just forget to do it. So taking time to schedule time for yourself. Making lists that are manageable, breaking down larger tasks into smaller tasks that you can accomplish, and focusing on one task at a time. Ask questions. We're here available by phone. You can call us whenever. We're here from 8:30 to 4:30 every day, and we can answer questions for you. Give positive feedback to yourself. Reward yourself for hard work. And don't give up or be defeated by backtracking. The challenge is to change. Next is self-protective behavior. So you're responsible for protecting yourself, reducing stress, recognizing and avoiding high-risk people, places, or things, accepting your own needs and limitations, and making yourself important. Make a list, post it. Recognize it will take time to establish new social contacts, interests, and activities. Try visiting the local library, read the paper, find free events in the community, even just go to chapters. Spend some time, kind of in that quiet environment, explore meditation. Develop alternatives to boredom. It's a big challenge right now for a lot of people, but take this opportunity as a time to try the things that you've always wanted to try. Try that craft. Try, getting into reading or reading a new type of book, those types of things. And writing a letter to relationships you're letting go can be very helpful in feeling some closure. You don't even have to send it. You can shred it. You can rip it up. But writing a letter, addressing, the things that you might miss, the things that are going to change, why this is going to be better for your life. But going through that step to have some closure can be very helpful. Nutrition. So poor health itself contributes to stress. If we're not feeling our best, we're often going to feel more stress. So abstinence alone isn't sufficient to rebuild the damage. Diet should contain a balance of vegetables, fruit, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Know your dietary needs. Most medical clinics have or can refer you to a nutritionist to talk about what your personal dietary needs are. And follow healthy rules. Eat when you're hungry. Avoid sugar and caffeine. Review your diet and consider what or how you might need to change. Start eating breakfast. That's one thing that a lot of people often skip. So making time to have breakfast, even if it's just, a quick smoothie in the morning can be great. Notice that post-acute withdrawal often increases after ingesting sugar, caffeine, nicotine, and think about what changes you might be able to make at this time. Next is exercise. This helps to reduce or rebuild the body, reduce stress, produces chemicals in the brain that feel good and relieve pain. Those endorphins start rushing, and that feels really great. Stretching and aerobic exercise can be most helpful in recovery. And the goal is to, increase your heart rate to 75% of its maximum rate and maintain that rate for at least 20 to 30 minutes, at least 3 times per week. It doesn't have to happen at a gym, walk, ride a bike, swim, even just finding, some free yoga videos on YouTube or walk at home videos, those types of things. Start small and build up. If we set a goal to say, I'm going to exercise every day this week, chances are, if you weren't already exercising 5 times a week, it's not going to happen. So thinking about what is realistic for you. Is it once this week? Is it 3 times a week? Working in small steps to reach the ultimate goal. Next is relaxation. So spend some time being able to laugh, to read, play. As adults, a lot of the times we forget to play. Massage, progressive relaxation, meditation, napping, positive imagery, and remembering it's impossible for a muscle to be relaxed and tensed at the same time. So rent a comedy DVD. The library has them for free. Reading, it helps us to build up the ability to focus, concentrate. Eventually you might read a whole article or a whole book, but starting small and building up helps to rebuild that focus. Play with your kids or pets or nieces and nephews, whoever's in your life. Go out into nature, get out walking. As long as you're staying physically distanced right now, you're able to walk around your block, those types of things, just to get outside. And working with brain exercises can be great in early recovery. Sudoku, crossword puzzles, even a word search to start off, something a little bit easier to really get that brain working in different ways. Spirituality. So spirituality can be defined as an active relationship with a power greater than yourself that gives your life meaning and purpose. So do you know what this is for you? Have you explored this area of yourself? Often substance use and abuse develops as people are trying to fill this void within ourselves. It can be religion, it can be having a faith, connecting with nature, art, volunteering for an organization that means a lot to you, those types of things. But having a spiritual basis can help with feelings of alienation and loneliness. And the last piece here is balanced living. So balanced living means that there is a bio, psycho, social, spiritual harmony in your life. It means that you are no longer focused on one aspect of your life. It means that you are living responsibly, giving yourself time for your job, your family, your friends, as well as time for your own growth and recovery. So you'll see this chart here, and there should be a copy of it in the handouts attached to this presentation. So this is a really great way to spend some time looking at each of the areas in your life. Consider what part of yourself requires the most immediate attention. Create a short-term and a long-term goal that will help you focus on bringing that area into greater balance. Do this for each of the other areas of your well-being. Ordering areas in greatest need for restoration first and areas in least need last. Create both a short-term and a long-term goal that will help you restore balance in each area. So common reactions to post-acute withdrawal. So catastrophizing, making mountains out of molehills. Fatalistic thinking, is this as good as it gets? Ignoring post-acute withdrawal and bullying through forced recovery when your heart's not really in it. So these are some reactions to keep in mind, and if you notice yourself having some of these common reactions, make sure to challenge those thoughts. Think about why you're having them and what might be a more effective way of dealing with this. Going back to the strategies we just talked about to manage post-acute withdrawal can be really helpful for these as well. So some reflections: you're not going crazy. This is very common. Everyone's recovery is different. Recovery can be stressful with or without withdrawal symptoms. Be patient, be kind to yourself, and go with the flow. So I'd like to say thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this SIS. I hope that it's provided you with some information. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to give us a call with the numbers listed at the front. And you are more than welcome to have any questions answered that you might have. And this is the reference to the article that is attached to this presentation as well, if you're wondering where it's from.